to another kind of thought-provoking notion about how do you stay in touch with your audience when you're working remotely. And we've spent as long as we have working remotely, and staying in touch is really a critical thing. So it's not just a feel, it's a whole process of getting connected with your audience. So I've got some ideas that I think you're going to find interesting, and it ain't rocket science. Anybody can do this, so stick with me, and I'd love to hear your comments and see what you think about staying in touch. I'm Darcy from Sticky Bee, and it's the place to be because I help you make it super simple to brand you, and I help you to get your audience sticky, get them stuck, and get them to stay like bees to honey, and that honey's you. So I help you get noticed so that your audience has a target to throw their wallet at. And it's all about how to stay in touch. So how do we stay in touch? Now, there are some people that believe the staying in touch is all about the poke. And they think, oh, well, if I just keep poking my person, poking my prospect, I'm staying in touch. And in fact, the answer to that little proposition or process or approach is no, don't go there. That's not the way to stay in touch. Now, some people believe that the staying in touch is all about the sale. And he says, oh my God, I just made a sale. And she's saying, oh, I don't want to buy anything. So if you're staying in touch by poking and trying to convince your prospect to buy, you ain't doing it. You ain't staying in touch. So to this approach, we'd also say that that's a big no. Don't go there. Now, another way to look at this is that when you start poking your audience, when you start saying to them, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, you're going to be talking to the hand, and that's not talking. In fact, I had somebody new approach me this week, asked me for a friend request. I always check out my friend requests and see that they're legitimate. And in fact, she was. And we had some friends in common, so I thought, sure, let's get connected. And as soon as we did that, the very next thing she said is, I know women like you, and I help women like you. So I'm going to offer you a free call and a little program that you can get involved in because I know it will help you in your business. Now, she doesn't know me. She didn't talk to me. I suspect she doesn't even know what my business is or how I conduct my business. And yet, the first point of contact was, I've got something to sell you that I just know you're going to love. Well, you don't know me, so how do you know that? So she's going to be talking to my hand because we haven't connected and we haven't really stayed in touch. So you could end up talking to the hand when you can't even see it or you don't even know it, because I suspect, because I've gone silent, she has no idea that she's rubbed me the wrong way. Now, I have kind of thought about, well, am I going to get back to her and just say, this isn't the right approach? And then I thought, well, no, we'll just wait and see if there's another opportunity for that to come up. So, in essence, she also could have decided maybe she was kind of mad at me because I didn't respond, and maybe she feels like she wants to just kind of flip the bird. And I'll tell you, when you flip the bird, you're cutting your nose off to save your face. And you really need to be cautious how you end things, if you choose to end things. Because even in this internet world, it's a small world. and she knows a friend, and she knows a friend, and she knows a friend. And ultimately what's going to end up happening is, you're going to get a bad rep, and nobody wants that. As my dad used to say, it takes a lifetime to build a reputation, but you can lose it in a New York minute. So be very cautious about how you set up your communication thread and how you kind of choose to move on from something that maybe just isn't working. So how do you touch? I mean, this is the big question, isn't it? Because everybody has what's called a filter bubble. And this is this thing that says, I think, how I see things, how I feel about things, how I hear things. Also, too, what my belief system is, and what the person that's trying to approach me, what their belief system is. So it's all about how we receive information. And I think when we look at things, we want to think about, are you vomiting on your prospect? Are you just so antsy to sell that you're stepping into the buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, when you don't even know if they're an appropriate prospect, if there's someone who could even be vaguely interested in what you're selling. So, this really comes down to, and it's really going to shock the heck out of you. But what this really comes down to is, it's tough. It's a skill set, but here's what it is. It's all about having a conversation. And too often, we jump into the buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, and we don't start with a conversation. So the question on the table right now is, if you start with a conversation, do you know how to get in and have one? Do you know how to talk to somebody? And that is a big, big question for many people. Because what we want to do is we want to have a conversation and get through that filter bubble. So, what we are talking about here is, how do you talk? How do you talk to someone? And from my perspective, it all begins with sight. And the reason that I say this is, and I'm going to support it with some things that I want to share with you. But it begins with sight. So first of all, you need to go to your prospects' landing page, to their social media, to their Facebook, to their Instagram, to their business page, and see what this person looks like. Not physically, but what's their content look like? What are they saying on their business page? And you get a sense of what they're about. You see, sight happens 60,000 times faster than text. So if you can get a little lay of the land, get a sense of what they're about, you may discover, before you even get into offering your service or your product or your offer, that they're not a good candidate. And so what you want to look at is look at them. Assess where they're coming from. And cite what, as they say, I had a feeling. The first thing I saw. You can never, as they say, never have a second chance to make a first impression. So what are you seeing? And then you've got to think about, now, okay, so I looked, I saw, and now you kind of are thinking, maybe I want to conquer. So what are you going to conquer? Well, you've got to begin, as I say, with a conversation. So conversations are interesting things that when you learn the conversation, and this isn't a script, because you've got to be able to ebb and flow and not come off like a robot that you've got a script that you're asking very specific questions. And what this does is it takes practice. What do you talk about? Well, I'm going to share with you that we all have 5, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 core convictions. And you talk about any one of these, and I will guarantee you that you will have a conversation and a connection. And the interesting thing about this is that when you have what's called a vital conversation, it crosses all ages and ethnicities, and it doesn't matter what generation you are in or are talking to. This is called a vital conversation. And everyone on the planet, no matter where you live, have these 5 core convictions. And it's kind of surprising when you think about it that we all have this in common. So first of all, you've got to be talking the same language. In other words, English in my world. But what you're talking about, it crosses all generations. And it's all about sharing these 5 core convictions. And when you learn what these 5 core convictions are, it's a way to break bread, to get some conversation going, having some giggles, and finding out if you really like each other. Because if they're going to buy from you, they first of all need to buy you. So how are you presenting yourself? How are you presenting kind of a trust in this relationship? So let's talk about what these core convictions are. And as I say, you can hold them in the palm of your hand. And here's what they are: care, connection, vitality, security, and legacy. So let's talk for a moment about what this means. So for the connection, it's all about community. So in other words, about being around friends, about being in a community. I live on a little island in the Pacific Northwest, and my physical community is quite small. And I also have a community that I'm very connected to online, and that is almost a little larger community. So what bonds that connection? What bonds that community? What bonds those friendships? And they are questions that are easily asked, and then they start building a profile of the people that you're talking to. So the next piece of these 5 core convictions, or part of your vital conversation, is the mindset of your prospect. So I call this vitality, but this can come even in, is your prospect even kind of open to the proposition? If it is a certain health feature that you understand very quickly that they're not health-minded and that they have no intention of being health-minded and don't want to hear anything more from you about being healthy, then you know right away that this isn't someone that you're going to have a connection with. Now, that doesn't mean you need to unfriend them or anything else, but right away you've figured out very quickly, without wasting their time or yours, quite frankly, that they're just not a candidate for what you're selling. Now, the next one is family, and this family can be children, or this family can be elder care. Is this candidate looking to build a college fund for their kids? Or are they looking to get more income so they can put their parents elder care facility? Are they looking to create a legacy in their own family that can go on and build the health and wealth and welfare of their family? And it could, the family could be even nieces and nephews and etc. It doesn't just need to be the core unit of the family. But what kinds of things is your candidate planning or hoping to plan or wanting to plan for their family's future? And then the other thing comes from security. And this security can mean a number of things. In other words, are they looking for extra income? Or perhaps they're not looking for extra income, they just want some financial freedom. Or perhaps they want this to just be easy, that they need a peace of mind to help them build into their future. Or is what you're offering a whole kind of new outlook on health and wellness that's going to give them some mindset security about being able to face their future in a much healthier manner? And finally, do they care, or how do they care? How do they feel? Because we don't purchase, any of us, anything on without taking in our emotional perspective. The story goes that 90% of our purchases are made emotionally. So when you hold these 5 elements of a vital conversation, and you don't necessarily need to have all 5 or all 5 at one time, but if you make a connection with your prospect on any one of these 5 topics, you're going to have a better indication about how you approach them with your offer. Because, as I say, it is all about the emotions. How do you feel about taking on another side hustle? How do you feel about being healthier? How do you connect with your friends? How are they healthy? What kinds of fitness things do you do together? What kind of, are you a doom and gloom kind of person, or are you excited about the prospects? Are you excited about what lays ahead, or are you fearful about it? What kinds of things do you want to leave for your family, or how do you want to incorporate your family into your fitness? These are all the kinds of questions that you want to talk about without sounding like the third degree. There is a ebb and flow to these conversations, to sparking these conversations. And ultimately, now what I need to do is kind of clear the decks here. But ultimately, what we want to do with these conversations is kind of make them fun and make them a giggle, make them something that somebody would like to participate in this vital conversation with you. And it really becomes all about, let me just get my next slide up here. It really all becomes about being an active listener. So that isn't a conversation where you're just waiting to step in so that you can say something. This is a conversation where you're actually listening to what the person you're having the conversation with is saying, and being able to mirror that conversation. So whether you're on the blower or whether you're in a Zoom or whether you're in a FaceTime, part of this is about mirroring your partner, the person you're having the conversation with. It's about mirroring that conversation. And it's a very interesting technique to use. But the active listening part is also about making sure you're hearing what's being said. And often you're hearing what's not being said. So stories are like having a vital conversation. And I ask you, how are you having yours? We talked about these 5 core convictions. And if you can entertain a conversation that embraces these 5 core convictions, you can then mix them up with what I call an angel's cocktail. And it's like triggering emotions that move your audience to purchase. So in essence, it's like they get to invite themselves into your conversation. So what are you offering? What are you selling? How will this affect my legacy? How will this affect my community? What happens if I brought someone else into this offer? So we want to tell stories that embrace these 5 core convictions and forget about the sale. What you're doing is actually gathering information that will allow you a better connection with your candidate. And indeed, you are kind of running your candidate through a little bit of filter to see if they would make a good candidate for what you have to offer, so that you can help them help themselves and make the transformation that they're looking for. But sometimes they don't know they're looking for it. So that's why this conversation is a really good one to have, so you can find out what they are really looking for. So I hope you got a few little things you can put away in these techniques of having a vital conversation with someone that can be funny, can have laughs, can have giggles, but you get to know them and they get to learn to trust you, which is all the critical elements of being able to have a relationship and make a sale. So I'm Darcy from Sticky Bee, and if you got some value from this, I'd love you to share it out. Come like my business page, Sticky Bee Ideas, and if you've got some questions about how to initiate this vital conversation, put Ask Me in the comments below, and I'd love to have a little vital conversation with you, and at very least have a little giggle. Take care, folks. Bye for now.